Hey, you know how everyone's out there chasing the latest crazy hype on social media and jumping at every little rumor? Meanwhile, something way bigger slipped under the radar from one of the huge money managers. Franklin Templeton, this massive firm that handles like $1.5 trillion, just dropped some real info in their official papers filed with the SEC back in March 2026. In their easy peasy crypto index ETF, they put XRP at about 5.85% of the whole thing. To regular folks, that might just look like a random percentage, but for big institutions, that number means serious business. They don't throw nearly 6% of a fund into something without doing tons of legal reviews, compliance checks, and risk evaluations first. It shows they've decided XRP isn't some wild gamble anymore. It's now a solid, trusted piece in their portfolios. For the longest time, crypto talk was all about Bitcoin and Ethereum as the main players, with everything else lumped together as riskier altcoins. But this move changes that. XRP is stepping up right behind those two, basically creating a new top trio that institutions are paying attention to. When a player like Franklin Templeton does this, it's not just their money, it's a signal that others watch closely and often copy in their own plans. They've also got coins like Solana, Cardano, and Polkadot in the same index, but those get way smaller slices. That tells you institutions aren't treating every crypto the same. They're picking favorites based on what they see as safer bets with more certainty. XRP is landing in that high confidence group, getting almost triple the weight of some other big names. Regular investors might chase trends for quick bucks, but these big funds care about stability, clear rules, and real usefulness over time. So why XRP and why right now? It mostly comes down to the rules finally getting clearer. There used to be this long legal mess with the SEC that made big money nervous. They couldn't risk putting huge amounts into something that might get blocked. But heading into 2026, that uncertainty cleared up, and XRP became one of the few cryptos they could comfortably work with. Once the legal worries fade, cash starts moving in fast, because institutions don't hang around. That 5.85% isn't just for today either. It's like setting up a base that can grow bigger later without having to rethink everything. We're seeing the start of XRP shifting from something people argued about to a normal part of how big finance operates. If institutions are already slotting it in as a core holding, imagine what happens when more people catch on. Allocations show what they plan to do, but actual money coming in shows how much they really believe in it. And it's not only through these mixed index funds. We're seeing direct bets too, especially with spot XRP ETFs that focus just on XRP instead of spreading across a bunch of coins. Franklin Templeton has pulled in over $321 million into their own XRP-focused ETF, putting them way out front. Overall, all the XRP investment products together have seen around $121 billion in new money. That's a huge chunk controlled by one trusted name, which shows concentration where big players pick who they trust most for access. Other firms like Bitwise and Canary Capital have similar products, but they're not getting nearly as much flow. In traditional finance, reputation and smooth execution win out, so Franklin Templeton is basically becoming the main door for institutions wanting in on XRP. Once they lock that spot with early money and better liquidity, it's tough for others to overtake. When institutions use these spot ETFs, they're usually in it for the long haul, not flipping in and out like regular traders. Pension funds and big asset managers like the steady exposure. The cash tends to stick around, creating steady buying pressure. Plus, every dollar that goes in has to be matched by actually buying XRP on the market. So institutional demand directly pulls real coins off the table and holds them. That's structural buying, not hype. It's baked into the system now. We're hearing that bigger names like BlackRock and Fidelity might expand into XRP once everything lines up even more. If that kicks off, the inflows we're seeing could seem small later. The spot XRP ETFs got the green light in late 2025, which was a game changer. Before that, institutions had limited, clean ways to get involved. Now it's simple and regulated, so money flows easier. Even places like Goldman Sachs are dipping in through these products, which adds more credibility. This whole thing is turning XRP from something mostly driven by regular investors and legal drama into a professional setup run by the world's biggest firms. Assets in these XRP funds have grown to over $1.4 billion and keep climbing even through ups and downs, showing the interest isn't fading. But here's the interesting twist. While all this big money is pouring in on the regulated side, the actual XRP ledger still looks quieter than some other blockchains. On chains like Solana or Ethereum, you see billions moving through decentralized trading and apps every day. That's lively, user-driven activity. XRP's decentralized exchange stuff often stays pretty low, sometimes around $10 million a day. Skeptics point to that and say without strong everyday use, it might not hold up long term if institutional interest cools. They're kind of right to wonder. Healthy networks usually grow from real people using them. Some even call XRP more of a tool for banks and big institutions than for regular folks building stuff. Its design always focused more on fast payments, cheap transfers, and moving value across borders, not so much on DeFi games or NFTs. Institutions like it for cutting costs and following rules, not for experimental stuff. Still, that activity gap is real, partly because stablecoins on XRP aren't as built out yet compared to places flooded with Tether or USDC. Ripple's RLUSD is trying to fix that and add more life, but it's still early and playing catch-up against huge networks. Right now it's like a superhighway ready to go with institutional money showing up, but not enough daily traffic yet. The big question is whether this is just the beginning phase, where infrastructure comes first and users follow later for an even bigger boost, or if the everyday activity never ramps up enough. A strong setup needs both sides, big capital plus real usage. That's why smart folks spread their holdings across different secure wallets and regulated exchanges like Kraken, just to stay safe and not rely on one spot. Overall, XRP feels pulled in two ways, institutions treating it like a serious financial tool, while the on-chain world is still growing. That mismatch is where things can shift fast in markets. None of this institutional wave would be happening without the rules changing first. Big money hates uncertainty. Back in 2020, the SEC sued Ripple, saying XRP was an unregistered security. That scared off exchanges and kept institutions away for years, no matter how good the tech looked. But in March 2026, things flipped when the SEC and CFTC together put out guidance calling XRP a digital commodity, just like Bitcoin and Ethereum. That removes the security label, which matters a ton because many funds are barred from holding securities without jumping through extra hoops. Commodities are a whole different, easier category. This was the big institutional turning point, moving from legally risky to officially okay. Now capital can come in without as many barriers. On top of that, the Clarity Act of 2026 is working its way through, aiming to lock in these classifications for good, so they can't flip back easily. It already passed the House with support from both sides, and it's heading to the Senate with some deals on stablecoins helping it along. If it gets fully passed, it gives long-term peace of mind that institutions crave for 5 or 10 years out. That could open the floodgates even more for pension funds and retirement accounts. Before, XRP carried extra risk in people's minds because of the legal cloud. Now it's shifting to something seen as lower risk and approved. That change in view is huge in finance. Perception shapes what actually happens. With clearer rules plus the ETF infrastructure and custody options, XRP is moving from the edges into the middle of the financial world. Once it's there, it starts setting new expectations that others follow. On the supply side, every inflow into spot ETFs means buying and locking up real XRP for the long term, not trading it around. As this scales from hundreds of millions to billions, especially if BlackRock or Fidelity jump in big, demand ramps up while the easy-to-trade supply on exchanges shrinks. XRP already has a bunch sitting in long-term holds, escrow, or now these funds, so liquid amounts get tighter. Institutions get this bigger dynamic. Rising demand plus less available supply eventually pushes the price to adjust. We're past the will it survive questions and into how large can this get under the new setup. In the end, Bitcoin gets seen as digital gold for storing value, Ethereum as the base for apps, and XRP as the reliable bridge for moving money globally. Together they make a nice balanced set that portfolio managers can use without having to defend risky bets. When one big firm like Franklin Templeton shows a strong 5.85% allocation, it pressures others to keep up or risk falling behind with their clients. That's how these changes spread at the top levels.